The cold wind cut through the tall black trees of Varian 6 like a knife. Snowflakes drifted down slowly, but the air was so sharp that each breath felt like broken glass. A human woodcutter named Eli Turner moved carefully through the deep snow, carrying his axe over his shoulder. He came to this part of the forest every winter to cut wood for the nearby village. But today felt different. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Eli stopped. He listened. Nothing. No birds, no animals, not even the sound of branches shaking. The silence felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. Then, he heard it. A small sound, weak, soft, almost lost in the wind. A cry. Eli frowned and turned toward the sound. It came again, thin, shaking, like someone trying to call for help but too cold to speak properly. He scanned the forest, but everything was white and dark. The tall trees made shadows that looked like moving figures. Eli walked forward slowly. Every step made a deep crunch in the snow. The sound grew clearer, two voices, not one, crying together. He reached a group of fallen metal pieces, maybe from an old crashed rover or an abandoned shelter. Snow covered most of it, but there was movement underneath a half-broken metal roof. When Eli lifted the sheet of metal, he froze in shock. Two small alien children were curled together under it. Twins. Their skin was light blue, almost white from the cold. Their hair was silver and stuck to their faces. Their eyes were big, glowing softly in the darkness, but filled with fear. Their thin arms wrapped around each other tightly, shaking hard. When they saw Eli, the older one pushed the younger behind him as if trying to protect them. Eli raised his hands slowly. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The twins could barely speak, but the younger one whispered with trembling lips, "Warm. Please, warm." Eli felt his heart squeeze. They were freezing. If he left them here, they would not survive even one more hour. He took off his thick outer coat and covered both children with it. Their bodies were ice cold. "Where are your parents?" Eli asked gently. The older twin shook his head weakly. "Gone. Left. No come back." His voice cracked as he spoke. Before Eli could say anything, he felt something strange, like eyes watching him from behind the trees. A small red laser dot appeared on a tree trunk close to him. He looked around quickly, but he saw nothing. The forest still looked empty. But the twins saw it. They panicked at once. "No, no, no." The younger one cried, grabbing Eli's arm. "Please take us, please. They will take us back." Eli knelt beside them. "Who?" The older twin stopped crying just long enough to whisper one word. "Hunters." That one word filled the air with new fear. Eli knew about hunters on this planet. Some hunted wild animals. Some hunted rare creatures. Some hunted people. Slave groups, illegal traders, or even soldiers who did things outside the law. And if these twins were running from them, they were in danger. Suddenly, Eli heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Crushing snow. Close. He stood up fast and looked around. The forest seemed to shift as shadows moved between the trees. Eli grabbed his axe tightly. His heart beat faster. Whoever was coming was not trying to hide their steps. They wanted him to hear them. The younger twin cried harder. "Please don't leave us, please." Eli looked down at them. Their small hands were shaking. Their faces looked pale and scared. They were begging him with everything they had left. He made his choice. He leaned down, lifted both twins into his arms, and held them close to his chest. Their cold bodies shook against him. The footsteps grew louder, closer, faster. Eli turned and began to move through the forest. Snow blew around him. The wind screamed through the trees. But he kept walking, pushing through the storm as if something bigger was guiding him. Behind him, the shadows stepped into the open. He did not look back. He only heard one thing. A deep voice from the darkness saying, "We found them." Eli gripped the twins tighter and walked faster. He did not know who these hunters were or why they wanted the twins. But he knew one thing for certain: he was not giving them up. Not today. Not ever. And as he disappeared deeper into the forest with the twins in his arms, the hunters began to follow. The chase had already begun. Eli Turner pushed through the thick snow as fast as he could. The twins clung to him tightly, their cold fingers gripping his shirt, their small heads resting against his shoulders. The storm grew stronger behind them, as if trying to hide their tracks. But Eli knew the hunters would not stop. He needed shelter. He needed fire. He needed time. Deep in the forest, far away from any road or village, stood Eli's old wooden cabin. Only he knew it existed. No map showed it. No villager had ever visited it. He built it himself when he first came to Varian 6, a place to stay during long winter weeks. Now it was the only hope the twins had. As he finally reached the small cabin, Eli kicked open the frozen door and carried the twins inside. The cabin was dark and cold, but it felt safer than anything outside. He gently placed the twins near the old stone fireplace. "I'll start the fire," Eli said softly. The older twin, Karen, watched him with wide glowing eyes. The younger twin, Lyra, hugged Eli's coat tightly around her small body. She was shivering so much that her teeth clicked. Together, Eli quickly grabbed dry wood from the shelf and placed it under the fire pit. He struck his old lighter, and soon flames began to grow. Warm light filled the room, pushing back the cold that tried to creep in. As the heat spread, the twins moved closer, stretching their frozen fingers toward the flames. Their small blue faces relaxed a little. Lyra let out a soft sigh, and Chiron whispered, "Thank you." "Human," Eli smiled. "Call me Eli." The twins slowly nodded. After a few minutes of warmth, they began to speak more clearly. Eli brought them warm tea and wrapped them in thick blankets. The cabin felt peaceful, but only for a short time. "What were those men?" Eli asked. Chiron hesitated. Lyra looked down, her eyes filling with tears. "They are not men," Chiron said softly. "They are hunters. Bad ones. They take children who have gifts." Eli asked. The twins looked at each other. Lyra held out her hands. At first, Eli saw nothing. But then, a soft orange glow formed around her palms, small, gentle, like tiny suns rising in her hands. The air warmed around her. Eli drew in a sharp breath. "Is that heat energy?" She nodded. Chiron lifted his own hands, and they began to glow too. But his glow was stronger, hotter, brighter, like fire trapped under his skin. "We were born with this power," Chiron explained. "Our people fear it. They think twins with heat energy bring storms or danger. So they sent us to a training place to control our power." Lyra whispered, "But training meant pain." Her voice broke, and she wiped her tears with trembling fingers. "We escaped," Chiron said, "but the hunters came after us. They don't want to teach us. They want to sell us." Eli felt anger burn in his chest. Children twins hunted because of something they never asked for. "You're safe here," he said firmly. But just as he said that, a sudden sharp sound cut through the cabin. Beep, beep. The twins gasped in fear. Their faces went pale again. Chiron gripped his sister's hand. "No," he whispered. "The trackers. They're awake again." Eli looked at their wrists and saw tiny glowing marks blinking red. The same blinking he saw in the forest. "They put these on us," Lyra said, her voice shaking. "To find us." The beeping grew faster. The blinking grew brighter. The hunters were close. Eli stood up fast. "Both of you into the ground room, now." He quickly moved aside the wooden carpet near the fireplace, revealing a hidden trapdoor. Beneath it was a small underground cellar he used to store dry wood and tools. It was safe, warm, and invisible to anyone scanning from outside. The twins climbed down. Eli covered them with blankets again and whispered, "No matter what happens, stay quiet." They nodded. Lyra squeezed Eli's hand tightly before letting go. Eli closed the trapdoor and placed a stack of logs over it to hide it. He grabbed his axe and stood by the door. Outside, the wind stopped. The forest grew silent again, too silent. A slow crunch of footsteps approached the cabin. Eli's heart beat heavy in his chest. He gripped his axe tighter. Someone knocked. 3 slow, heavy knocks. "Open," a deep voice ordered. "We know the children are inside." Eli said nothing. The door handle turned out. The hunters were here, and Eli was the only one standing between them and the twins. The door shook under the force of the knock. Eli stood completely still, his axe held tightly in one hand, his other hand resting near the edge of the table in case he needed to push it for cover. Outside, the wind had stopped so suddenly that it felt unnatural. No storm, no snow, only silence and footsteps. The deep voice outside spoke again, colder this time. "Human, we know you are inside. Open the door." Eli did not move. A second voice joined the first, lighter, but sharper. "Break it. He's wasting our time." Eli pulled in a slow breath. He needed to stay calm. The twins were right under his feet, hidden in the cellar. Their lives depended on him now. The door shook again, only this time something metallic scraped against it. A cutting tool. Eli knew he had only seconds. He blew out the candles around the room and stepped back into the shadows. The cabin turned dark except for the faint glow of the fireplace. The crackling fire painted moving shapes on the walls, making Eli look like a part of the cabin itself. Then dash cracked. The door snapped open. 2 tall aliens stepped inside, wearing black armor with blinking red lines down their arms. Their helmets had glowing red eyes, like machines mixed with flesh. Snow dusted their boots. They held long scanners in their hands, tools used to detect life signs. One of them lifted his scanner. "Human life detected, but more heat signatures are nearby." Eli's heart sank. The scanner could detect warmth, and the twins, even hiding, were warm from the fire and their own powers. He stepped forward. "Looking for something?" Eli asked calmly. Both soldiers turned toward him. The taller one spoke. 2 children escaped from a restricted training facility. They are dangerous. We are here to retrieve them." Eli stared back without fear. "I haven't seen any children." The shorter soldier stepped closer and scanned Eli's face. "You are lying." Eli tightened his grip on the axe. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed from deep in the forest. The soldiers jerked their heads toward the door. Their scanners flickered. "What was that?" The shorter one hissed. The taller soldier answered, "Ice predators. This area is full of them." Eli knew that wasn't true. That roar belonged to something else. Something rare in this forest. Something he had only heard once before. A snow beast. Huge, silent, deadly. A creature that attacked anything moving at night. The soldiers seemed unsure for a moment. Eli used that second. He stepped directly into their view. "I told you. I live alone. You're wasting your time." The shorter soldier raised his blaster. "Step aside, human. We will scan the cabin." Eli didn't move. The taller soldier began inspecting the shelves, pushing aside bags of flour and tools. He scanned the fireplace, the table, the walls. Eli kept walking slowly, staying between them and the trapdoor. One wrong step and everything would be over. The shorter soldier moved toward the rug covering the trapdoor. Eli's heart pounded. He took one silent breath and dropped his axe. It hit the floor with a heavy thud. Both soldiers spun around instantly. "What are you doing?" The taller one barked. Eli raised his hands slowly, trying not to get shot. The shorter soldier kept his blaster pointed at Eli while bending down toward the rug. He reached out and lifted its corner. The snow beast roared again closer. This time, the entire cabin trembled. The shorter soldier jumped back, looking toward the window. What is wrong with this planet? He growled. Before he could lift the rug again, the scanner in his hand beeped loudly. A flashing blue symbol appeared on its screen. Danger approaching. Large predator. The soldiers reacted immediately. We need to move, the taller soldier ordered. It hunts light and movement. The shorter one glared at Eli. We will be back. And if we find out you hid them? He leaned close, his breath cold against Eli's face. You will regret it. Both soldiers slipped out of the cabin, closing the broken door behind them. Eli listened to their footsteps fade away into the forest. Moments later, a deafening roar shook the trees again. Only when everything was silent did he finally kneel and move the logs off the trapdoor. He lifted it. 2 small faces stared up at him wide, terrified and full of questions. Are they gone? Lyra whispered. For now, Eli said softly. But they'll return. Chiron swallowed hard. What do we do? Eli looked out the window at the dark forest. The hunters were not giving up. The snow beast was loose, and the twins' trackers were still active. We survive, Eli said. And we stay ahead of them. Eli kept the twins hidden for several minutes, waiting for any sign that the hunters might return. The cabin was silent except for the soft crackle of the fire and the slow, shaky breaths coming from beneath the trapdoor. When the forest finally settled back into its natural cold whisper, Eli lifted the twins out and guided them toward the warmest corner near the fireplace. Lyra sat down first, pulling her knees to her chest, still wrapped in the blanket. Chiron sat close beside her, always watching the door as if expecting it to burst open at any moment. Their eyes were tired, frightened, but also shining with something else, something Eli could not name. You're safe for now, Eli said gently, placing a pot of warm water on the fire. But we need to talk. I need to understand what I'm protecting. Chiron lowered his head, torn between fear and trust. Lyra kept staring at her small hands, rubbing her palms together as if trying to warm them. The hunters said you're dangerous. Eli continued, crouching in front of them. But I don't believe that. So tell me what really happened. Lyra squeezed her eyes shut as if holding back tears. Her small voice trembled. We didn't want to hurt anyone. We didn't want to be born like this. Eli frowned. Born like what? Chiron raised his hands. Like this. At first, nothing happened. Then a faint orange glow formed around his fingers. It was soft and slow, then brighter and brighter until the air shimmered around his palms. The heat was real, a warm wave spreading gently across the room. Lyra opened her hands too. Her glow was gentler than her brother's, almost like the warmth of sunrise. Small sparks flickered between her fingertips like tiny glowing butterflies. Eli stared in disbelief. You can control heat? Chiron nodded. Yes, they call us Ignite Twins. Lyra whispered. People like us are born once every 100 years. Our people fear us, or want to own us. Eli sat back slowly. He had heard rumors about special children in alien tribes having strange powers, but he never imagined he would meet 2 of them alone in a frozen forest. We don't want to be weapons, Chiron said, his voice breaking. The hunters were supposed to train us, but training meant pain, fear, testing. They hurt others to make us show our powers. If we didn't, they hurt us. Lyra wiped her tears with shaky fingers. They locked us in cold rooms, so we would use our heat to survive. Then they measured how long we could last. Eli felt something hot rise in his chest. Anger and sadness. They're monsters, he said quietly. Chiron shook his head. Not all. Some guards were kind. Some tried to help us escape. But the night we ran, they were punished. Maybe worse. Lyra hugged herself. They blamed us for escaping. Ailey placed a firm, comforting hand on her shoulder. Listen to me. None of this is your fault. But before Lyra could answer, a strange buzzing sound filled the cabin. The twins froze instantly. Eli looked around. What was that? Chiron lifted his wrist. The glowing mark, the tracker, was pulsing again, but differently this time. It wasn't blinking red like before. It was glowing white. Lyra's eyes widened. No. This is worse. What does it mean? Eli asked quickly. It means someone important. Someone high-ranking. Has activated the master signal, Chiron whispered. It lets them see everything around us. Even through walls. Eli stiffened. That meant the hunters could see inside the cabin right now. Suddenly, a cold draft swept under the door. The fire flickered violently. Every wooden beam in the cabin groaned, as if the whole building felt fear. Lyra grabbed Eli's shirt. They found us. Eli moved fast. He shut the shutters, blocked the windows, and pulled the heavy metal sheet across the fireplace opening to reduce heat signatures. Then he turned to the twins. Chiron, Lyra, can you control your power right now? Chiron swallowed. A little. But if we use too much, they'll find us faster. Eli knelt down so he could look them in the eyes. We're not letting them take you, he said. But I need you to do something brave. The twins listened carefully. When I tell you to hide, Eli continued, you must control your power so it becomes cold, not warm. Can you do that? Chiron's eyes trembled. We've never tried. But we will try, Lyra whispered. Before Eli could respond, the front door shuddered as if struck by something heavy. A metallic voice echoed from outside. Ignite twins detected. Remove barriers. You have 10 seconds. Eli stood firm. The twins held each other tightly. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Eli whispered, stay behind me. 7, 6. He gripped his axe. 5, 4. The twins closed their glowing hands tightly. 3, 2, 1. The door exploded. The hunters had returned, and this time they were not alone. The door burst open in a storm of splintered wood and flying snow. Shards scattered across the cabin floor as Eli shielded the twins behind him. Cold air rushed inside, making the fire almost die out. 3 armored hunters stepped into the cabin, larger, heavier, and more dangerous than the ones before. Their armor glowed a chilling blue, and each one carried a long staff that hummed with energy. The leader, a tall alien with pale silver eyes, stepped forward. Human, he said slowly, you have interfered long enough. Eli gripped his axe, but his voice stayed calm. They're children. They're assets, the leader replied coldly. And you are outnumbered. Chiron clutched Lyra's hand. Their small bodies shaking behind Eli. The twins' wrist trackers pulsed faster. Reflecting their fear, Eli took a step back, pushing the twins toward the rear hallway. We're leaving. The leader smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. You won't get far. He raised his staff. A blast of freezing blue light shot out. Eli shoved the twins aside and dived to the ground. The blast hit the fireplace, exploding the stones and sending sparks everywhere. The cabin filled with thick smoke. Chiron, Lyra, go. Eli shouted. The twins scrambled toward the back door, coughing through the smoke. Eli swung his axe at the nearest hunter, hitting the staff and knocking it away for a second. It gave him just enough time to run after the twins, but the leader shouted from behind, stop them! Blue beams fired through the smoke. One shot hit the ceiling. Another blasted the table. A third shot nearly struck Lyra, but Chiron pulled her aside at the last second. Eli grabbed both twins and pushed through the back door into the freezing darkness. The chase had begun. Into the snowy wilds outside. The storm had returned. Snow swirled around them like a white curtain. The wind howled so loudly it covered the sound of their footsteps. "Stay close," Eli said, lifting Lyra into his arms while holding Chiron's hand. They ran through the thick forest, leaving deep footprints in the fresh snow. But even the storm could not fully hide them. Behind them, glowing blue lights cut through the darkness. The hunters were coming. Chiron looked back, his voice shaking. "They're tracking us. The master signal is too strong." Eli stopped for a moment and knelt down. "Both of you listen. Can you lower your heat? Make your bodies cold?" Lyra nodded weakly. "We can try." The twins held their breath. Their skin darkened from soft blue to a dim grayish shade. Their glowing hands faded until the light disappeared completely. Eli touched Chiron's hand. It felt cold as ice. "It worked," Eli whispered. "Good, now let's move." They pushed through the trees until they reached a frozen stream. Eli placed the twins on the ground. "Walk on the ice. It won't leave footprints." Chiron nodded and took Lyra's hand as they moved carefully across the slippery surface. Eli heard a sharp buzzing noise overhead. He looked up. A drone. Small. Fast, with a red searchlight sweeping across the icy stream. "Down," Eli whispered. They threw themselves onto the ice just as the drone passed overhead. Its red beam skimmed inches from Lyra's face. She held her breath, trembling. The drone hovered, scanning. Then it picked up something bright behind them. Not heat dot light dot, the glowing remains of Eli's cabin fire. Still burning through the destroyed wall. The drone turned and flew back toward the cabin. Eli exhaled in relief. "Let's go before it returns." The beast's hollow, they left the stream and entered a darker part of the forest. The trees looked bent, twisted by years of storms. Eli recognized the path. They were nearing an old hollow log large enough to hide inside. It once belonged to a giant forest beast, long dead. "Inside," Eli whispered. The twins crawled into the hollow space. Eli covered the entrance with fallen branches, making it look like nothing more than part of the dead tree. Chiron whispered, "Eli, will they catch us?" Eli knelt outside the hollow. "Not if I lead them away." Lyra grabbed his wrist. "No, they will kill you." Eli smiled softly. "Not if I'm smart." He stood and took a deep breath. Then he ran fast loud, crashing through the forest on purpose. A loud crack echoed as he stepped on a frozen branch. Blue lights appeared behind him. Instantly, the hunters heard him. They were coming, and they were following him. Not the twins. The hunters close, and Eli ran as fast as his legs would carry him. Snow stung his eyes. Branches tore at his jacket. Every breath felt heavy and cold. Behind him, the hunters' blue lights lit the snowy path like ghost flames. The leader's voice echoed through the storm. "Run, human. It will not save you." Eli's chest burned. His legs felt weak. But he kept running, drawing the hunters farther. Away far enough that the twins would stay hidden. He risked one. Quick look behind him. 3. Hunters. Fast. Silent. Close. He turned sharply around a thick tree and stopped. A cliff. A deep drop. Into a dark ravine. Eli looked down at the black depths. One wrong step and he would fall. Footsteps approached behind him. He turned around slowly. The hunters surrounded him. Weapons glowing. The leader raised his staff. "It ends here." Eli tightened his grip on his axe and prayed the twins were safe. Snow whipped across the cliffside as Eli stood facing the 3 hunters. Behind him stretched a deep ravine, dark and endless, like a mouth waiting to swallow him whole. The leader's pale silver eyes glowed through his mask, and his humming staff pointed directly at Eli's chest. "Human," the leader said in a cold voice. "You cannot protect what is not yours." Eli tightened his grip on his axe. His breathing was heavy, white steam rising from his mouth in sharp bursts. He did not blink. He did not step back. The cliff behind him left no room for mistakes. "They're children," Eli said slowly. "Children don't belong in cages. Or on chains." The hunters took one step forward, staffs raised. Snow cracked under their boots. "They are weapons," the leader replied. "And their power belongs to us." Eli's pulse pounded in his ears. He took a small step sideways along the cliff's narrow edge. Every muscle in his body trembled, not from fear, but from the cold and exhaustion of running. Leader lifted his staff higher. "Submit," he ordered. Eli tightened both hands around his axe. "Handle, never." The leader fired. A blast of icy blue energy shot straight toward Eli. He dove to the left, rolling across the snow. The blast hit the cliff edge, blowing a chunk of rock into the ravine. The cliff shook under his feet. The second hunter lunged forward, swinging his staff. Eli blocked with the wooden handle of the axe. Sparks flew, and the impact pushed him backward, dangerously close to the cliff's drop. The third hunter moved behind him, trying to trap him. Eli dodged again, swinging his axe in a wide arc that forced both hunters to step back. But Eli was slowing down. His arms were heavy. His legs shook. His breathing grew rough. He couldn't keep this up forever. Another blast shot toward him. Eli ducked. The blast missed, but it melted the snow under his feet, turning it into slippery ice. Eli's foot slipped. He stumbled, lost his balance, and fell to one knee. The leader stepped forward. "It is over." Eli tried to stand, but his body refused. He gripped his axe for support. His vision blurred for a moment. Behind him was a fall that would end everything. In front of him were three hunters ready to strike. He whispered to himself, "At least the twins are safe." But then, a soft glow appeared behind the trees. Then another, and another. Small, orange sparks floated through the forest like fireflies. The hunters froze. The leader lowered his staff slightly. "What is that?" The sparks grew brighter, then merged into two glowing shapes. Two small figures. The twins stepped out of the forest, glowing bright enough to light the snow around them. Lyra's tiny hands shone like warm lanterns. Chiron's palms glowed like burning embers. Their faces were scared, but determined. "No." Eli whispered, "Go back. It's not safe." But Lyra shook her head. "You saved us," she said softly. "Now we save you." The hunters turned their weapons toward the children. "Stop!" Eli shouted, pushing himself up. The leader aimed his staff at Chiron. "Do not move, child." Chiron lifted his hands, and the air around him shimmered with heat. The snow at his feet melted. Steam rose like fog. Lyra stepped beside him, her glow gentler but steady. "I'm not afraid anymore," Chiron said, voice shaking. "Not of you." The leader growled. "Ignite twins, activate capture mode." All three hunters fired at once. Blue beams shot through the air, but they never reached the twins. Chiron raised his hands, and a wall of hot air burst outward, bending the blue beams away. Lyra added her warmth, forming a soft shield around both of them. The hunters staggered backward as the twins' glow grew brighter, warmer, stronger. Eli's eyes widened in awe as heat washed over him like sunlight in winter. But the twins were struggling. Chiron gasped. "Lyra, we can't hold it long." Lyra squeezed his hand, her glowing fingers trembling. "Don't let go." The leader roared in anger and charged straight at the twins. Eli threw himself forward and smashed his axe against the leader's staff, knocking it aside. The leader stumbled but quickly recovered. Chiron screamed, and a burst of heat shot from his hands, hitting the ground between Eli and the hunters. The snow exploded upward, creating a thick fog of steam. Visibility dropped instantly. In the fog, Eli swung his axe wildly to force distance. A hunter tried to grab him, but slipped on melted ice. Another fell backward as Chiron sent a wave of heat toward him. The leader rushed through the fog, grabbing Eli by the collar. "You can't win," he roared. Eli struggled, but then a bright flash lit the entire cliff. The twins clutched hands and released everything they had. A giant wave of heat blasted outward, melting snow, shaking the cliff, and throwing the hunters backward like dolls. Their armor burned red hot, forcing them to drop their weapons. The leader slid across the ice, barely stopping before falling into the ravine. Silence fell. The twins collapsed on the ground, their glow fading. Eli ran to them and lifted them gently. Both were breathing but weak. He held them close, whispering, "You did it. You saved us." But he looked up with fear. The cliff was cracked. The forest was burning in patches. The hunters were down but not dead, and the storm was returning. The final battle was not over yet. Snow drifted silently across the cliff as Eli held the twins in his arms. Their glow had faded to a faint shimmer. Both were breathing, but weak, drained after using all their strength to push back the hunters. Eli looked down at their small faces, pale from exhaustion, and whispered, "Stay with me. Both of you. Don't sleep yet." Chiron slowly opened one eye. "Eli, we're okay. Just tired." Lyra rested her head on Eli's chest. "Did we stop them?" Eli looked over his shoulder. The hunters were lying in the snow. Their armor was scorched, their weapons melted into twisted metal. The leader dangled dangerously close to the cliff's edge, gripping a thin patch of ice to avoid falling into the ravine. Yes, the twins' blast had saved them, but Eli knew the danger wasn't over. The cliff was cracked. Steam rose from the aftershock. The forest around them was dark and shifting as if watching quietly. The cold felt colder than before. Eli lifted both twins carefully into his arms. "We're leaving," he said softly. "I'm taking you home." Back through the frozen forest, the journey back was slow and heavy. Chiron and Lyra couldn't walk on their own, so Eli carried them both, one in each arm, through the thick snow. The storm had calmed again, but clouds of smoke from the melted patches of forest drifted between the trees. Eli's muscles ached. His breath felt sharp. But he pushed forward. At one point, Lyra whispered, "Eli, you don't have to carry us. You'll fall." Eli shook his head without slowing. "You risked everything for me. I'm not letting you out of my arms." Chiron opened his eyes weakly. "Eli, why?" "We're not your family." Eli looked down at them with a soft smile. "You don't have to be born to me to be my family." Both twins closed their eyes again, this time not from weakness, but from comfort. The cabin on the hill. By the time Eli reached the cabin, smoke still curled from the broken roof and shattered fireplace. The front door hung half open, the snow inside melted and frozen, again into dangerous glass-like patches. But the cabin still stood. Eli carried the twins inside and laid them on thick blankets by the corner wall away from the broken fireplace. "I'll make a new fire," he said gently. "A warm one." He broke apart old wood beams and lit them with his lighter. The fire slowly grew, soft and golden. Warmth returned to the room. The twins lay close to the heat, trembling as life returned to their fingers. Eli sat beside them, rubbing their hands gently. "You're safe now," he whispered. Then a sound came from outside. This time, not a hunter. A deep horn echoed across the forest, followed by dozens of footsteps. Eli stood fast, gripping his axe with renewed fear. "Stay down," he whispered to the twins. But when the doors swung open, Eli froze. It wasn't hunters. It was villagers. Alien villagers, men, women, and elders stepped inside the cabin with worried faces. They had seen the burning forest. They had heard the battle. They had followed the trail. A tall village elder approached Eli and bowed. "We saw the hunters," she said quietly. "They are criminals. They steal children with gifts and sell them. We've been trying to stop them for months." Eli blinked in shock. You knew about the twins? The elder nodded sadly. But we never knew where the hunters hid them. Until now. She knelt beside Karen and Lyra, placing a gentle hand on their heads. You two survived more than any child should. Kyrin opened his eyes slightly. Are you angry at us? The elder's eyes softened. No, you are not a curse. You are a blessing. Your power is not danger, it is hope. Lyra began to cry softly. Eli's eyes stung as he looked at them. The elder stood and faced Eli. You protected them when even our own people failed. We owe you a great debt. He shook his head. I only did what anyone should do. The elder smiled sadly. Many say that. Few actually do it. The decision the villagers offered to take the twins with them. They promised safety, a home, and protection. But when they tried to lift the twins, Lyra grabbed Eli's arm. No. Don't take us from him. Kyrin nodded with tears in his eyes. He saved us. He didn't treat us like weapons. He treated us like children. Eli knelt beside them. You don't have to choose now, he said softly. But Kyrin shook his head. We already chose. Lyra took Eli's hand. We want to stay with you. If you want us. Eli felt emotion rise in his chest. He looked at the twins, small, scared, but full of hope, and nodded. Yes, he whispered. You can stay. I want you with me. The twins threw their arms around him, crying into his coat. The elder smiled warmly. Then we will protect all three of you. No hunter will ever touch them again. A new dawn. By morning, the storm cleared. Soft sunlight spread across the snow outside the cabin. The forest looked peaceful again. Eli stood outside with the twins, one holding his left hand, one holding his right, as the first warm rays touched the world. For the first time since the nightmare began. They felt truly safe. Lyra rested her head on Eli's arm. This sunrise. It feels warm. Eli smiled down at her. Maybe that's because we're a family now. Kyrin squeezed Eli's hand tighter. Then we'll make every sunrise warm. Together. They watched the dawn break, a new beginning. For the human woodcutter and the two alien twins he saved when no one else would. Humanity at its best.